What is up, everybody? I am not Jameson Redding, but we're live. Look, you guys want to see a boat? A boat? Anybody? Anybody want to see a new boat? Here we go. Let's bring him in. The one, the only, world famous, world renowned Jameson Redding.
Uh, I can't hear you that well, Chad, because I'm behind or in front. Jake's behind the camera helping me out. Appreciate that, Jake Penny. We are in Fish and Tackle Unlimited here in Texas. We've been on the road. We were over in San Marcos area, putting the finishing touches on getting some of the promo content for the Coosa X, which we have right here in the store. And we're ready to show you guys. If you haven't already seen the walkthrough, Chris Funk did an amazing job doing the walkthrough for this boat, and it goes over every single detail. So I wanted to do this live video as more of a Q&A session, but I think we can get started by just doing a quick overview of the boat here live. And then if you have questions, be sure to drop them in there. Chad's going to post them up, and Jake's going to read them out, and we'll try to get those answered. So let's kick this thing off, Jake. What do you think? Start with the logo. Yes, the logo. The Coosa X. The Coosa X is a Team JK Signature Series boat or watercraft, and the reason we put that on there is because this boat was not something that one or two people even came up with. We knew that we wanted to update the Coosa line, and we wanted to come out with that next evolution of the boat. So we polled 10 or 12 of our biggest river fishermen, like people that spend time in moving water. They love the Coosa line, and they're the ones that we wanted to get feedback for and how we took it to the next step. Plus, we've got Tony Lee in the R&D department, and Nick Lewis and Brad and others that really knew how to design a performance-oriented hull shape that could really deal with moving water in those conditions, because we believe that making a boat perform on the water shouldn't be sacrificed when you're trying to get the functionality where you want it. But the big reason for coming out with a new boat in that Coosa line was really just because things have evolved. We have more accessory options now with companies like Yak Attack. People like wide open deck space. We just have more feedback as kayak fishing has grown and things have changed. And we took all that feedback from the different users and our team members, and the Coosa X was born. So we really believe we're putting out one of the best performing hull shapes we've ever done for the river, and we have not sacrificed that functionality and that fit and finish in doing so. So I'm going to really quickly walk through the boat, but before I do, is there any questions yet, Jake? All right, well, let's get into it. So looking at the bow, you can see it's got that really Coosa style bow. It's really bulbous, high volume, which is going to allow it to ride up and over waves instead of piercing through them if you're running any kind of whitewater. The boat also has a lot of rocker, meaning that the hull shape is kind of like a banana, if you will. It raises up on the bow and on the stern, which is what's going to give it that maneuverability and, again, keep it performing really well in moving water, especially if you get into those rapids. We'll get into the cockpit area in a minute, but I will say it's got a trimmable seat, and that's going to also allow you to dial in how this boat turns and how it tracks. By moving forward a little bit, it tracks a lot straighter. By moving back, it's going to turn and be more maneuverable. The next thing, as we get on the layout of the boat here, is you'll see some track on either side. Chris talks about this in the walkthrough video. You've got a handle and a nice flat area in case you ever want to add any kind of bow-mounted accessory for trolling motor and things like that. But the track on each side is specifically so that you can add anchor mounting options, like the Anchor Wizard that I have mounted here. This is the boat I've been testing and using here. And the Anchor Wizard being mounted off the bow is ideal when you're trying to face up current and bring those baits down current, because that's the best presentation, and that's the way the fish a lot of times will be facing. On top of that, we've got some molded in geometry here. And it goes in the hull here and comes back out in the cockpit. And this tubing kit is an accessory, but the geometry comes standard on the boat, and you can easily add that tubing kit to be able to pass your anchor line through the boat and minimize any chance of getting that caught up when it comes to having hooks and baits and things laying up on the front. Also on each side here of the hatch, we've got some security bars, which are tie-down points, and we have that new fish bag accessory that will also work with those really well. And then you have this expansive hatch. On top of the hatch, we've got the paddle stager. This is new for 2023 as far as the material that we're using, and is the standard on any of our boats that have the paddle stager. It's a UV-resistant material, and it's going to be snag-free. The old Hypalon strap that we had before would tend to fray over time as it got used. This is going to be a lot more durable. Now we're going to open up this hatch, and it is massive. This is actually the same size hatch we have on the NAR, and it has that really high standing hatch rim around here that's going to keep water from being able to enter this boat when you're going through those rapids and you take any kind of water or splash over the side. There's also a gasket in the hatch lid, again, just to help it stay very dry, and some geometry to kind of funnel any water that would collect around it out and away from the boat. You can also put rods down inside the boat. You'll see in the walkthrough video, we slide a spinning rod down inside the boat, showing that if you want to store rods inside the hull of your boat, you can do so. But it's going to be great for overnight trips, or just extra gear that you want to bring while you're out on the water. Moving back into the cockpit, there's a lot going on here, and this is where I'm talking about that functionality and not sacrificing performance. So there's a few things that kind of stand out right away. The floor has this new kind of corrugated geometry to it, which adds a ton of strength and rigidity in the floor. There's also foam blocks under the floor to even increase that. And then we've utilized this geometry to give you places to run those transducer cables and keep them tucked out of the way. Under the seat, you actually have the transducer scupper. And again, that trough in the middle, you can run those transducer cables to the stern or to the bow of the boat. And then those pad eyes are there for you. You can take those out and then put the cable under and put the pad eyes back in to really keep it secured. We've got the nice marine mat cushion and deck pads on here as well, and it just looks awesome. The one thing I'm sure you guys are wondering about are these foot braces. When we were talking about some of the features that we wanted to have in this boat, having rod storage on the sides that would be inside the gunnels, much like we have on the NAR, was one of the top things that everyone asked for. Well, in order to do that, we needed to move the foot pegs away from the side where they would typically be to clear up that space. So this is what we came up with. These are fully adjustable and very comfortable out on the water. If you're a fly angler, you could easily switch this T-nut out to a low profile, or even put a T-nut in and just do a Phillips head 1/4-20 screw and keep that nice and flush. But you can adjust these for your leg length and to get more comfortable when you're on the water. You can even take these out of the boat and get a track-mounted foot peg like we sell on the U-Pick, and that would be another option if you didn't want to take advantage of the rod tubes. But speaking of rod tubes, we have 2 rod tubes on each side here that go into the bow of the boat. So you can keep those rod tips protected, but you can also bring those rods inside the boat, which is super important in a river situation because you're floating down the river and inevitably there is a tree hanging over the side and you forget that you have your rods standing up in the back. Not only has that caused me to flip before, but I've also lost rods that I didn't even know had been just ripped out of my rod holder by a tree. So a lot of times in river situations, I like to keep my rods down inside the boat and tucked away. Also, being able to bring them inside the gunnels is going to keep those reels from catching rocks and stuff as you're kind of maneuvering through any kind of rock garden or rapid area. As you move back, you'll see the second half of the rod management system, which are these tri-lock stagers. These are the same ones that we have on the NAR. They can be mounted to the tri-track, and then we'll get into the fact that this boat has a ton of tri-track on it. But also we include an L bracket adapter that will allow you to mount this rod rack anywhere there's flat track as well. So it gives you a lot of options, and Chris covers that in the full walkthrough video. So be sure to check that out if you haven't already, because you can even go up to a 9-foot fly rod and still put them in the rod tube and have them protected by just configuring those rod racks in different ways. Tons of track again. We've got the tri-track on both sides of the boat. A new accessory, and I'm going to have Jake actually walk all the way around the boat here. Appreciate it. Are these paddle clips. I don't have a paddle in them right now, but in the walkthrough, you can see that in action. These are track-mounted paddle clips. They can be mounted with a Phillips head screwdriver anywhere on any of the track of the boat and easily bungee to the boat. So that just makes it easy to keep your paddle really secured to the side of the boat. You can see I've also got the second half of the anchor wizard here mounted to the track system, and you can see how that line actually feeds into that tubing right there. So it's super clean and out of the way, and the tri-track just really makes mounting things on this boat kind of unlimited if you're going to add that motor or electronics. If you want to run wires, you want to run cables, you've got options to have things mounted on all 3 sides like we do here with the rod rack, the paddle clips, and the anchor wizard. So you've got the standard kind of high-low seat slider system now. This is the easy high-low seat slider system. Again, lift, it goes into the low, and lift, you can put it back in the high. You can also trim this forward and aft as well, which again will really help you dial the boat in for how you have it loaded and how you want it to paddle. So quickly moving back from there, again, we talked about under the seat is that transducer scupper. It's a very large transducer scupper, and it has a cover on the bottom as well, so that you can protect the transducer, and you can also pull that off to install the transducer and hold it into place. And it's made to really accept all the major transducers and fish finders that are on the market now. So as they've gotten larger, we've increased the size of that transducer scupper to cover it. More track back here on either side. Again, you can use that L bracket that comes in the kit with the rod rack to be able to move those back here, because if you find that sweet spot for your seat, you may want to move those around and really dial it in to your needs. Between this thwart here in the back and this ridge and the tip of the rod tube, it's about 7 feet 9 inches. So you can do a 7'8" rod, no problem. If you're going longer than that, you can come into the tank well and use that rod rack and have that rod come all the way down the side. On each side here, you'll see that we have flush mount rod holders, and then another piece of tri-track that acts kind of as a thwart, adds a little structure to the boat, but gives you even more rigging options. Huge tank well on this boat. This was another big ask from the team. Crates have gotten bigger. The amount of gear you take has gotten a lot bigger, and that was one of the things that we felt might have been missing from the older Coosa models, is the tank well was kind of limited in size, and some crates wouldn't fit in it. But we wanted to keep the access to the stern of the boat. So what we've done here is give you an expansive tank well and still maintain that access point to be able to get into the boat. If you're going to be doing any rigging, you've got a little day hatch bag in here, but you can access the hull to run any wires or cables through it if you're putting a motor in or anything like that. More track on each side of the tank well here, and there are cutouts underneath that track in order to add 1-inch straps or bungees to hold that gear down in the back of the boat. Next thing you'll see is we've got some pad eyes here, along with some geometry for that drag chain. That has always been a key feature on the Coosa line. It's a great way to slow yourself down in a river where you're not wanting to really anchor, but you just want to slow down to be able to hit the water better. So we kept that geometry back here so you can add that drag chain accessory. You've got your drain plug, and then you've got your power pole mounting geometry that also works with a lot of the motors that are on the market now. So torpedoes, Newport vessels, whatever it is that you want to mount back here. Those are molded in inserts, so you don't have to do any kind of backing plate or get inside the boat to put a nut on or anything like that. You literally just pull these nylon placeholders out and put your power pole bracket or your motor mount on there. As we look under the boat here, we have the removable and replaceable skid plate. That's something we have on all of our fishing models. And again, you can just kind of look down that hole. It might be kind of hard to do. I'm going to pick up on it, see if you can look down the hole. Tons of scuppers under there. This one's probably scratched up. We've been in the river. The really cool thing about this platform is it drafts super shallow. It's super maneuverable. It's more stable than any of the Cousas we've ever made. And it has a higher capacity. So with the width and length, let's talk about that. It's 11 foot 8 inches long. It is 36 inches wide. It has a capacity of over 400 pounds, and it weighs around 98 pounds. So you would think it's a big, wide boat. It might not float that shallow, but it is stupid shallow. I mean, it really, really gets shallow. We were actually doing some inshore fishing in it as well, and we were floating over oysters in this boat. The other boats that we were in couldn't do like the U-Pick. So it does have a very shallow draft, which is key to me in a river situation. When you're running through those shoals, you don't want to get stuck up and just keep trying to have to scooch your boat down the shoal. Is there any questions yet, Jake?
One was asking what the price was going to be on them.
The price on it is $18.99.
And colors as well.
Okay, the colors, we have the playa color here. It's also going to be available in the dusk color, which is red and blue. And I was looking to see, actually, we have a Bite right here, a Bite FD, that's in that dusk color. And then it'll be available in forest, which we have here in the blue sky, so you can see what that looks like. The other thing is we do have a special edition color. It is a little bit more expensive. I think it's $100 more. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what it is. And it is the yellow jacket color. For those of you that don't remember what the yellow jacket color is, it's basically got black tips, it's yellow, and then has a white cockpit area. So it's really cool.
How well does it track in open water?
So it tracks pretty well. Again, this is where the seat comes into play. For me, when I wanted the boat to be more maneuverable, I kind of trimmed back, and I'm not talking much, a few inches one way or the other. If you trim back, it's going to be more playful. It's going to turn a lot better. The minute we got into those longer sections where I needed to paddle through, we moved the boat forward. Jake was actually paddling the boat last night in some current when we were paddling through some canals to fish some dock lights. Jake, you can speak maybe to how you thought the boat tracked.
Yeah, in my opinion, the boat tracked really good, especially being in salt instead of being in a river. And honestly, it was one of the fastest paddling boats I've been in, maybe in comparison to the OG Kilroy.
Yeah, it paddles really well, actually. I mean, surprisingly well. In fact, Chris, I'm going to quote Chris Funk here, who did the walkthrough video. I always feel like I'm going to get honest feedback from Chris, good or bad. And he went out and compared it directly to the Coosa HD. And I think he was surprised by what he found. He said that the comparison really wasn't even a comparison, and that hands down the Coosa X was the better performing boat. So we put a lot of time and thought and effort into the hull shape. And again, want to thank the guys in R&D for that. This is still a Tony Lee designed hull shape, and he took that criteria of being a really good moving water river fishing hull shape to heart and delivered on it for sure.
It was Ben Howard asked if you can boof it.
Well, you probably can, yes. Actually, I'm pretty sure we've already done that a couple of times, but yeah.
Is a bin going to be available for the front hatch?
Yes, we are working on an accessory for the front hatch that would also work on the NAR as well. Now, that's coming out in the next few months. It takes a little while to develop the tool for it, and we got to get all that approved and done. So, but yes, in the future, there should be an accessory for a hatch bin for the bow.
Why is there no sort of rudder control?
So that question I've seen come up a lot. If you guys remember, this is a river kayak, and a lot of times rudders and running rapids are not things that are really that go hand in hand. None of our river boats, the Coosa nor the Coosa HD, have had that ability for a rudder, and we've never really had that as an ask from any of our team to have rudder control on this boat. However, that all being said, it'd be very easy to adapt and use a rudder control as it is motor ready. And motor ready means that you can mount a motor back here. You could easily run some tubing through the boat and come out around the tri-track to be able to hook up those rudder controls. I personally have mounted mine using track-mounted foot sliders and mounted those to the tri-track, and that's how I steer my motor, and that's how you could also steer a rudder. So it would take a little bit of adapting if you really wanted to do that, but that is just not really something that we've been asked for a lot in our river boats.
What was the weight on the boat?
The weight is 98 pounds.
Does the hull offer options for foot steering for those running electric motors?
So yeah, again, if you're going to run those electric motors, you'd want a track-mounted kit. It's what I've done on my NAR. A lot of the guys have done it on their U-Picks as well. Basically, you mount your foot sliders and steering controls to the tri-track, and then you would just run your cables either on top of the deck using the track system, or you can go into the deck and pop out at the stern and be able to do it that way.
Will a Coosa FD be updated to a similar profile?
I can either confirm or deny. I'm just kidding. Right now, we do not have plans to update that boat to this profile, but I will tell you that this deck layout, so far, the team has been very happy with it, and it's very similar even to what we have on the NAR with the tri-track and the open cockpit area. So as we move forward with any future plans for boats, I would say this is most likely going to be the direction that we head with our deck layout and functionality.
How stable is it?
We found that it was very stable. We found that it was more stable even than the Coosa HD, which has always been a pretty stable boat for us. I will say that it really shines in secondary stability more than anything. It is a little bit more playful hull shape, which means you've got that initial rock, and then it's going to lock in on that edge. And what that's going to allow you to do is when you come down one of those rapids, you can actually lean the boat and get it to turn and eddy out very easily. But like I said, I can stand and spend a lot of time standing on it, and I don't really need to even spread my feet apart to gain that extra feel of stability. Just having it in the middle seems to work really well.
Anywhere to mount a retractable dog leash next to the seat for rear drag chain option.
Yeah, so with the tri-track that we have there, you could easily figure out ways to do that. That's another thing that we've actually been looking at. Another accessory that we offer while I'm thinking about that is track-mounted side handles. So you can actually get those and add it to the track and be able to kind of suspend and attach things there.
Someone said, I heard this handles class 3 whitewater like a dream.
I don't know who said that, but we did run what Google says is a 2.3. Of course, Google doesn't always, match up to what things are in real life, but we ran Moccasin Gap in this. For those of you that know, that's on the Coosa River. We've had this boat on the Chattahoochee, and you see some of that content in the videos, as well as we've had it in Texas, where the whitewater wasn't big by no means, but it was very technical in the sense that it was small chutes that we had to do kind of quick turns to avoid hitting rocks and going up on the shallows. So it actually does handle. In fact, I would say that it's almost confidence inspiring. I ran some of the bigger stuff that we ran in this in the high seat position and really felt very confident in it.
What are the edges of the hull like?
Let's
rounded?
take a look at that. See if I can turn this boat up on its side here. So as you look at the profile, it carries that width through, and then it has an edge here that kind of tapers off to another edge, and then it rounds off real nice there. So that's what's going to allow you to kind of rock that boat back and forth and then lock into that edge of the boat. You might be able to shoot down the boat and show that rocker profile as well. It's kind of hard to see without it on the floor probably, or in the water. Any more questions? Well, folks, we are very excited about this boat. I don't know that our team has been more excited about a boat in a very long time. We've spent a lot of hours in it testing it. This boat was kind of a combination between CAD and hand shaping. We did a lot of different things here with the bent tri-track like we did on the NAR, having to come up with a new way to kind of manage your foot bracing and foot controls, the in-hole rod storage, the anchor pass-through stuff. I feel like we've really tried to think of this as river anglers. I'm a river angler myself. It's one of my favorite things is to chase smallmouth in moving water and current. And this is my favorite river boat to date by far. I really, really have enjoyed paddling it, and it's been, very impressive to me how it maneuvers and handles in those situations. So if you have any more questions, we're going to leave this video up. You can definitely ask them here. You can reach out to us in hundreds of different ways. You can check us out on jacksonkayak.com. Find a dealer. These are going to start shipping this week. We have a few dealers that will be getting boats already this week and into next week. So if you're looking for one of these, and you want to see it in person, definitely go to jacksonkayak.com. Ask us questions if you have them. And check out the walkthrough video if you haven't already. Chris did a great job walking through all the features of this boat. Did a much better job than I did in the last couple minutes here. So if there's no more questions, we have a fun tour to get to here in Texas at FTU Fish and Tackle Unlimited. So if you're in Texas, we're at the Gulf Freeway store. We're at the Gulf Freeway store. We're going to be here from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock with some pizzas and some drinks. We're going to be giving away rods and just talking kayak fishing. So if you're in that area, be sure to come check us out for sure. Nothing else. I'll give it back over to Chad.
There you guys have it, the brand new Coosa X. We appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for hanging out with us. And thanks to Fishing Tackle Unlimited for hosting us today. We appreciate them and all that they're doing with the fun tour and letting us go live with this Coosa X. So with that being said, we'll see you guys on the next one. And thanks for watching.